Welcome. I will now call to order the January 11, 2024 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please take the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today, County Counsel Stephen Madcor, Clerk to the Board Tony Mayernick. Commissioner West is out of the office today. Roll call online, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
In the room, Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Aye. And present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's rules will be followed in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to polite participation. Gary, can you introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair Smith. First tonight is a presentation. There is a significant winter storm coming to the area starting tomorrow, and we want to brief you and the public about what the county is doing to prepare for that. We have 3 departments who will speak tonight. We'll start with our Disaster Management Department, and then followed by our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department, followed by the Department of Transportation and Development. So first up will be Jamie Poole. She's Disaster Management Program Manager within the Department of Disaster Management. Jamie, go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. Chair Smith and Commissioners. So currently, the forecast includes an extended period of cold temperatures that will last at least until Monday. Lowland snow will start to accumulate Friday afternoon, that's tomorrow, into Saturday with the potential of accumulation of 1 to 6 inches at that lowland level. Snow in the Cascades and foothills will continue, and accumulations will increase as you go further up in the elevation, with potential of about 18 to 24 inches near Government Camp. There's high confidence in the cold temperatures and snow in the Cascades and foothills. However, there is a little bit of uncertainty in the track of the storm, which could affect the snow and ice accumulations in different locations. Most models are showing that the potential for freezing rain is tracking south of Salem, which is a good thing. That means that it would be minimal to no impact to Clackamas County for the freezing rain portion. However, although not likely, there's a small possibility of the system tracking further north, and that would impact the south portion of the county with up to as much as 1/2 inch of ice, probably in the Molalla area south.
Yay.
Yeah. So with that, disaster management has decided to activate the EOC to a level 1 of assessment and monitoring starting tomorrow morning. We have developed an action plan for activating the EOC to a level 2 this weekend if the need arises. We have been coordinating with Health, Housing, and Human Services, the Department of Transportation and Development. We've met with the Fire Defense Board, with the Oregon Emergency Management, Oregon Department of Human Services, and we've also set up coordination calls with internal partners as well as our city and special district partners. Our office has spoken with PGE, Portland General Electric. They have informed us that their critical incident management team is activated and will be working 24/7 throughout the storm to address potential power outages. We have also connected staff in H3S with PGE and their support team to share information about the people that they identify that have self-registered as being power dependent and medically fragile, so they can share information if there's power outages that are prolonged. We have also connected with our partners at Clackamas Amateur Radio Emergency Services for potential activation should we encounter any major communication outages where we need to support to communicate to partners. We have also facilitated a request to the state for enhanced coordination with 211 Info, which is where folks are being directed to get information about warming centers and shelters. And we've requested the activation of a rideshare program so folks can get a ride to a shelter if they're in need of that, if the need arises. With that, if there's any questions for me, I can do that, and then I can hand it over to Rod.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any question for Disaster Management Representative Jamie Poole right now?
Let me ask you.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Okay, Jamie, the emergency number is 211?
Correct.
Is there a non-emergency number or website where people can go and just get information on warming centers?
Yeah. Well, our Clackamas County has our clackamas.us/relief,
Got it.
where we can, you can see all the daytime warming centers and an overnight shelter. But if you call 211 or you can text 211 info, then they can communicate and get you the right information for what you
Okay,
need.
good, thank you.
And Commissioner, I know you didn't mean this, but a public safety emergency, you call 911. This is
Yes.
for
Right,
general weather information.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Jamie.
So next, Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, will give an update on the work that department is doing.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. As you've been briefed, severe winter weather is forecasted to start tomorrow and run into midweek next week. In anticipation of these conditions, and in our shared effort to keep our community safe and healthy, public health, social services, housing and community development, and disaster management have been coordinating to provide shelter and services to people living outside and other vulnerable members of our community. As you're aware, we're down one congregate shelter due to two former sites ending their agreements with the county. The city of Molalla ended their agreement with Molalla Hope, which caused the closure of that shelter. The Zoar Church in Canby decided a few months ago to end their warming center service. To adequately address any potential need for shelter, H3S worked with local providers to create a response system that is simple to use and very effective in making placements. The current system is in place to have individuals call 211 who will contact and interface with our H3S staff, which is their manning or personing the coordinated outreach services or providers, to provide the logistical support to triage any individual and or family to the nearest shelter or motel. H3S has already negotiated a block of rooms and are supporting Father's Heart Warming Center to maximize capacity at their site. So to summarize, community members in need should contact 211, and they will be connected to our staff, who will then assist them getting to either a warming center or a motel. If the need occurs, H3S staff are on alert to assist Father's Heart Warming Center or stand up a second congregate site if necessary. And if you have any detailed questions, I have my expert in the back room, Vahid Brown, who has pretty much oversaw the development of this system.
Questions for Rod Cook, commissioners?
Only to say, Rod, appreciate all the work and appreciate the dedication and the preparation for this. And I know that we've been trying to expand that shelter capacity, so I'm interested to know after the fact, the follow-up, what our existing capacity is and how much of it was used in this particular storm in the event. So I want to get a sense of the need, whether it's growing or declining in these cold
Yes.
weather events.
I'm sure we'll be collecting data on that, and I know we have 50 rooms set aside, so we'll have some utilization rates for you at the end of this event.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rod, for coming forward.
Thank you.
All right, next, Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, to talk about how that department is providing service during this storm.
Chair Smith, Commissioners, good evening. We live for this stuff. First of all, I want to inform the Board of County Commissioners that, in fact, we've been pretty proactive. We were talking as of last Sunday. Shane Abbott reached out. He's the manager of our transportation maintenance group. And we had a discussion about being proactive or being reactive. And we made the call on Sunday to start Monday morning to roll into 24-hour operations. And the question is, why would you do that? I mean, the why is around the fact that we were looking at heavy rains over the weekend previously. We were looking at wind predictions at 30 to 45 miles an hour, trees down, things of that nature. We were looking at varying freezing levels throughout the week. I mean, my next profession is going to be a meteorologist. You can be 50-50 or 30, no one really counts. And in all honesty, to minimize the impacts to our crews. It is hard to be working day shifts and then in the middle of the week roll into 24-hour ops. It's a stress on your crews. And we felt fundamentally it's better to our staff to start it Monday morning right off and then move forward. And when we say 24-hour operations, essentially we have crews. We have a shift that runs from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. and from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. And they switch off during those transitions and schedule events and operations and coordinate between those transitions. When I say what are our crews doing, right now we are queued up with 14 snowplows, 11 sanders mounted to those vehicles. We have 2 graders chained up with snow blades, 2 loaders chained up with snow blades and a snow blower, and those are all distributed across 6 different geographic locations around the county. One of the things we've really prioritized over the last couple of years is why are we having all of our staff come into Oregon City and disperse from Oregon City? How do we get those resources out into the community? I'll tell you, Monday through Tuesday was a lot of pre-work. We had a lot of high water response, catch basin cleaning, road signage for high water, vegetation removal, and down tree response. We had about 7 or 8 trees down that Monday to Tuesday night that we had to respond to. Tuesday night was essentially we were plowing above 1,000 feet in elevation and had some on the east side primarily, and then had some down tree response. We had one road that was closed down, which was Sunshine Valley. It's now open. Wednesday night, we rolled in. You saw some of the snow come in. We were plowing above 1,000 feet and higher. Up in Welch's, the Little Pass area, we had 1 to 4. I mean, think about the fact that we have 1,400 miles of roadway at a variety of different elevations. So while we're seeing rain down here, they're seeing snow up there. And so basically, we had dispersed vehicles out there to take care of that. Today, I'm happy to report all of our roads are open. We did coordinate and communicate with ODOT. I'm not sure if you heard in the news, 224. They had a small slide that had closed that road. That is now open, I'm pleased to report. I will let you know that we have closed the ferry. There's a variety of things that we monitor because of high water. We are currently looking at the feasibility and possibility of opening it Tuesday. That depends on how the weather transitions as we go forward. You've heard before, we're tracking this weather system. Essentially, we're looking at colder temps coming in, east winds strengthening. It's talking about weather at various levels at various amounts. I do want to call out, in addition to the amazing staff that we have at our transportation maintenance group, we have 6 amazing, highly skilled managers that are coordinating all that work from those AMs to PM shift that I'm very proud of. They coordinate the transition of that work, which is so important. We are doing internal situation and status reports every day amongst that group to transfer information. And I also want to highlight the fact that when we roll into 24-hour operations, we have some amazing partners in our fleet group. We are running these vehicles, especially when we come into the height of the event, which is essentially Friday and Saturday. We are running those vehicles 24 hours a day. And it is important to make sure that we have the support of our fleet and our mechanics that are there to do the work, to repair everything from the plows to the trucks to the sanders. They do amazing work. And I'm just proud to say that we have a highly trained staff that's ready and prepared for this event. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Dan, that's a great synopsis of all the available resources we have at the county for the roads, and I think that's great that you're so proactive on that. Thank you very much. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just want to, whether you have the answer today or next week, I'd love to know if your staff are seeing business as usual and response as usual on the ODOT side of the equation, knowing that that was a big issue in the news about their ability or not and funding or not to be able to plow the roads. So I know that a lot of state highways go through Clackamas County. I can never always name them, but we have a lot of them: Highway 26, Highway 43, 99E, 212, 211, 224, 213, 551, and I know I'm leaving one or two off, but a lot of state highways that intersect with county roads, and I just would like to know if there's any differences this year than past storm events.
You are talking to a man whose son just drove the Sandy Am Pass tonight to go over for some ridiculous reason over to Sun River. And I am pleased to announce that it was reasonably clear, and so I haven't heard significant issues. I specifically asked about that question regarding the landslide in 224 to see what their response time was. They were pretty responsive on that. I'd be happy to follow up with Shane, our transportation maintenance manager, and get back to you and let you know if we have any additional information. Yep.
Well, appreciate the extra hours and lift that all our staff are doing, on the ground with that, and always impressed. I know sometimes they pull 24-hour shifts sometimes, so just give kudos to all of them for all their hard work.
They're doing great work. Thank you so much.
They are very much. Up next, Commissioner Schrader.
Thank you, everyone. And I just also want to repeat what Commissioner Savas just said, and I know that all our colleagues feel this way, that we understand the hard work that your folks do up on the mountain and in other areas during these severe weather incidents. And I just want to make sure that they know that I believe all of us on the commission appreciate their hard work, as well as your hard work as a director, and as well as Rod's hard work, making sure that people who are going to be in need of warming centers and places to stay are going to be available.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Schrader. Dan Johnson, Jamie Poole, Rod Cook, Vahid Brown, thank you all for all your efforts in all these departments to keep Clackamas County running safe and warm. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have quickly close. So again, all of this information is on the county website, on the homepage, clackamas.us. Members of the public should call 211 if they need assistance. And then stay tuned to media reports to also see what is going on in the region. But thank you, commissioners, for recognizing our staff. Our staff, beyond the 3 departments you heard tonight, but all of our staff, multiple departments. We work here because we like working for the public and serving the public. They're all on call this weekend to help in any capacity our members of the public. And then finally, to be fair to say, we do not see the need to declare a weather emergency, but should that arise over the weekend due to extreme weather, if there are power outages or downed trees or damage to buildings, I will communicate directly with Chair Smith, and then she would declare that emergency, and then the board would ratify it on Tuesday when you reconvene, if that were to occur. I don't expect it, but it's better to be prepared just in case. So I will be in direct contact with Chair Smith. I will communicate with all of you commissioners that it's happened, and then you would ratify that action on Tuesday when you convene for business. So just to be ready in case. All right.
Thank you, Gary, for that.
Thank you. All right.
What's up next?
All right, next, the consent agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Juvenile Department, item 1, approval of revised amendment number 1 for a grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Education for juvenile crime prevention services. Amendment value is $495,377 for 2 years. Grant value is increased to $970,625 for 4 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Education. No county general funds are involved. Finance, item 1, approval of amendment number 1 to a contract with Cintas Corporation number 2 for countywide uniform services. Amendment value not to exceed $800,000 over 4 years. Total agreement value not to exceed $1,248,200 over 6 years. Funding is through departmental cost allocations, which includes a small portion of budgeted county general funds and other fees and charges. Tourism, item 1, approval of professional services contract with Travel Portland to implement portions of the regional tourism plan. Contract value is $158,457 for 1 year. Funding is through Travel Portland. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of a professional services contract with Travel Oregon to serve as the regional destination management organization. Contract value is $400,000 for 1 year. Funding is through Travel Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Disaster management, item 1, approval of a grant agreement with the with the state of Oregon for the fiscal year 2023 Emergency Management Performance Grant. Agreement value is $249,906 for 1 year, funding through Federal Emergency Management Performance Grant and matching funds of $124,953 in budgeted county general funds. Item 2, approval to apply for Urban Area Security Initiative fiscal year 2024 grant funds. Anticipated grant value is $792,223, funding through the Urban Area Security Initiative grant program. No county general funds are involved. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of a supplemental project agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Bull Run River Bridge project. Total agreement value is $2 million, funding through the Oregon Department of Transportation Local Bridge Program, and $205,400 in county road funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of public improvement contract with Premier Property Development, LLC, for the Stone Creek Golf Club Pond Repair Project. Total value is $195,000, funding through Stone Creek Golf Club course revenue. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you for reading that tonight, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing nothing, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Commissioner Schrader has moved we approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Shull has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Well, we're right up to public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statute and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comment shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony, and I will take in-person testimony first. I do not see anybody in the room who wishes to testify, and Tony has checked the basket for cards, and there are none. Tony, is there anyone online who would like to testify tonight?
If you would like to testify, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting and go on to the next item. Gary, you're up.
Thank you. Next is County Administrator Update. That's me. I like to use this time to recognize our county employees. First, from Disaster Management, we have a program called Clackamas Amateur Radio Emergency Services, or CARES, CARES. It's a nonprofit agency that works with disaster management to provide amateur radio services during emergencies when communications are disrupted. Last year in 2023, CARES volunteers contributed 15,400 hours of service participating in exercises, updating equipment at our Emergency Operations Center, completing training, updating personal equipment, and more. 15,400 volunteer hours by members of our community is a considerable contribution to Clackamas County because CARES, this program, absolutely serves the members of our public. So we thank the partnership with CARES and all of those volunteers and our staff at Disaster Management that work to support that program. Next, a great example of two of our employees who once again helped save someone's life. These are employees of our Transportation Maintenance Division, Jonathan Sheriffs and Greg Hoover. They were recently doing county business, traveling on Stafford Road, when they found a car that had its engine on fire. The engine was on fire. Now, the people were out of the car, thank goodness, but our employees, Jonathan and Greg, stopped. They helped extinguish the fire. They called 911. They made sure the passengers were safe, and they waited until the sheriff's office and the Clackamas Fire District and the ambulance arrived. Everyone was okay, but a huge thank you to Jonathan and Greg. They were just doing their normal course of business. They saw a need in the community, they stopped, and they took care of it. And that's phenomenal service, and I know that most of our employees would do the very same if they were in that situation. That is my update for tonight. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Well, thank you, Gary. Now we will move on to Commissioner Communication. Up first is Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Clackamas County. Next month, we'll start the short session of the state legislature, and I want to run a few things by you and encourage you to contact your state representative on issues that are important to you. One is the governor's package. She hopes to get through the short session on $600 million funding for jump-starting new construction in Oregon. We also need to implore our state legislatures to look at easing up urban growth boundaries and working with ODOT to build and design, construct new infrastructure to open up lands that will be available for residential and business ventures. Also on forestry, we had some bad news this week. One of our sister counties lost a mill, Hampton Lumber Mill in Banks, Oregon, and that's due to the Oregon Department of Forestry's plan to further decrease harvest and increase the no-cut areas in the Habitat Conservation Plan. My concern for Clackamas County is that our two remaining major lumber mills, RSG and Interfor, might fall to the same problem. So I encourage people to look at that and contact your state rep and see if we can't get ODOT to change their mind on reducing harvest. On new taxes, Governor Kotek's Housing Production Advisory Council has presented the governor with some new ideas for taxation, and I want to run it by you. One idea, a tax increase, 0.5% increase on personal income tax to generate $699 million. Second idea was a property tax increase, or a $1 per 1,000 value on real estate assessment to generate another $504 million. The third idea was 0.5% retail sales tax to generate $501 million. And fourth was a payroll, 1/2 payroll tax to generate $620 million. And finally, their fifth idea was to double the fuel tax for another $686 million. I encourage everybody to look at that, contact your state rep, and let's get some action on that. We don't need any more taxes in this state. Tolling, we beat this horse up so bad over the last couple of years, but we have to keep on it. VoteBeforeTolls.org, sign the petition. We must stop tolling, period, end of sentence. The primary 16 weeks away. I encourage everybody to take a look at their registration online and make sure it's right, make sure your address is correct. And finally, on Martin Luther King Day on Monday, I'd like to recommend everybody take time to think about a great American named Martin Luther King Jr. He not only led America out of segregation, but he illuminated truth and justice and taught us that equality of all people is the way ahead. And I encourage every family to remember Martin Luther King Jr. and reflect on his teachings and inspiration on how we can live a better life and have a better nation. And with that, I'd like to wish you all a good weekend and a safe weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith and Commissioners. I wanted to let you know that I've been working very hard as the Chair of the Community Economic and Workforce Development person for the National Association of Counties. And there's a few things I'd like to share with you about why this is critical. On November 8th, the U.S. Department of Housing and Human and Urban Development published a Notice of Funding Opportunity that is usually called a NOFO. This is for the Youth Homelessness System Improvement Grants. It is really aimed to support selected communities to develop and implement systems to better address youth homelessness. The grants will focus on systems change to create and build capacity for youth action boards, collect and use data that work with at-risk youth, develop strong leaders within a community, and improve the coordination, communication, operation, and administration of homeless assistance projects to better serve youth. As we continue to work on the issue that we're dealing with houselessness, homelessness, people who are living on the streets, that we are trying to do the best we can with our social service delivery systems to give them services. We cannot forget the youth that indeed are homeless, and part of this grant includes prevention and diversion strategies. And the whole goal of this is to increase the capacity of our communities to better serve youth and create projects that are responsive to the needs of youth at risk or experiencing homelessness in the community. I do know that if we contact our folks in the school districts, each district has a report of how many homeless students and youth that they are serving. And I'm hopeful if the county does not apply for some of these opportunities and grants to juvenile, that we can get this information out to our school districts, because they're expected to provide up to 35 awards, and counties can directly apply for grants up to $2 million, and the deadline is February 15th, 2024. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Economic Development Administration. They have what they call a Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Programs. I know this sounds rather bureaucratic, but that's the way the federal government works. But one of the things I try to do is to make sure we're aware of the dollars that we can get for the services we provide in our county. There's a notice of a funding opportunity for the fiscal year Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program, which counties are directly eligible for. The Public Works Program will enable us to acquire and develop land and improvements for use in public works, other type of development facilities, design and engineering, construction, rehabilitation, alteration, expansion, or improvement of public works, public service or related development facilities, including related machinery and equipment, water and sewer system improvements, expansion of port and harbor facilities, construction of expansion of facilities for workforce development, redevelopment of brownfield sites, and expansion, construction, or improvement of technology-based facilities and research and development commercialization centers. So basically, these are programs that are part of the comprehensive economic development strategy. And I am hopeful that as I continue to work at this level, I can continue to bring information to our administrator, to you, my colleagues, and the heads of our departments of dollars that are available to help us provide the services we need for youth, and also to get the infrastructure necessary for our communities such as Malala, Estacada, Canby, and some of our larger cities, the infrastructure needs that they need to have in order to continue to serve the citizens. So that's my report from tonight. I want to thank all of my colleagues for allowing me to do this from home. You kind of saw me limping around the other day with, with a bad foot, and I appreciate your patience and your support and your collegiality in working with me and with all of us together. So that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Commissioner Schrader, I hope that you get some resolution on your pain in your foot here and whatever treatment you need as soon as possible. I know how painful that is and dealing with a little bit different situation with my foot, but so far physical therapy is helping considerably, so I consider myself lucky. What I wanted to talk about a little bit, and I was going to give a little bit of background and history about it, is the Region 1 Act, which is an acronym for the Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation. And I think about 9 years ago, there was no Region 1 Act, and our then State Representative Bill Kennemer had received some advocacy from some of the rural citizens in Clackamas County who said, we don't have any representation other than the county for state roads and highways and funding. So Representative Kennemer at the time advocated, and the legislature said, let's take a look. And the long and the short of it is the Region 1 Act was formed through a very difficult process, which I recall very well, in which, while the emphasis was on rural roads, the representation, the group of people was predominantly urban at the end of the day, and still is today. And this Monday, we had another Region 1 Act setting the work plan for the coming year. And we have a lot of new faces there, people that are not familiar with the reason that the Region 1 Act was formed. And of course, the dominant voice at the table was the urban voice. And people felt that they ought to strike any emphasis on rural representation or rural issues and consider it all the same. And I made my pleas and several times and said, you know, there are a lot of community building organizations in the Portland metro area, primarily in Portland, some in Clackamas, some in Washington County, but primarily in Portland, and very little in the rural unincorporated areas, and especially, so really I'm speaking about two different populations. There's rural unincorporated and there's urban unincorporated. And I was making the argument that cities that are in the rural area have their voice and have their governance to contact ODOT and talk about state roads improvements, whether it's Highway 211 going through Molalla or Highway 224, which goes through Estacada, 99E that goes through Canby, Highway 26 that goes through Sandy. They've got that advocacy, got that ability. And the county, and as far as elected position, is myself and the board, if they hear or see something that they want to advocate for to ODOT for these things, which is a lot of territory and a lot of people. And we rely upon our committees around the county to help with that, help identify that, but it doesn't always take place very well and very efficiently. And at the end of the day, it doesn't make the mark or have the representation or the strong voice at these tables. I made another plea to tell people that there are a lot of tables, transportation tables, in which advocacy for certain funding dollars are out there, lots of them, and I sit on a lot of those. Commissioner Schultz sits on one of those. However, they're mostly urban, or virtually all urban, with the exception of one, which is the Region 1 Act, which I had to make that point again, that this is the only table in which rural voices can be heard, and striking language or diluting language for the rural population is not acceptable. So I don't know how that'll be. There was considerable discussion. The meeting went long, and we're going to meet again on the 22nd of January to discuss this further and hopefully come to a decent resolution. I am concerned about that. Again, new faces, new voices, and people not aware of how transportation funding takes place. I was tonight going to speak about a continuing conversation about governance, but because Commissioner West is not here, I wanted to make sure he was part of that. So I'm not going to speak about that tonight, but I do want to say that we do rely upon, whether it's this transportation issue or whether it's parks or whatever it may be, we rely upon our, our committees to help inform us. And, you know, we all base decisions and recommendations based on the information we receive. Our staff ideally are always able to do that. Since COVID, we have lost a lot of our citizen force of volunteers. We're building that back up and hope to be as robust and vital as we once were prior to COVID, but we're still not quite there. So we have suffered quite a bit in having that organizational communication, that robust organization and communication. So just want to end with that and want to ask people to be very, very mindful. Tomorrow, tonight, get all your shopping done before the storm hits. Make sure you have ample water, batteries, whatnot, and take care of yourselves, blankets, flashlights, all that good stuff. And hopefully this will not be severe as we hope. And hopefully we'll all have our power on as long as possible. And just be safe out there. Don't travel unless you have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas, for the update and continue to work hard on transportation issues. We mentioned it earlier in the week. I want to reiterate that the Joint Legislative Committee on Transportation, Senate and House, came to the City of Gladstone in the auditorium on Saturday afternoon to listen to people regarding tolling. There were over 200 people there. Not everybody testified. Many of us did. Commissioner Savas gave testimony. I did. Our elected officials across from the cities did. It was very well attended, and I do believe our legislator listened. We'll see what kind of impact they have. However, I don't think they're going to act this year on tolling, so it's imperative, if you don't want to be told, support IP4, the Vote Before Tolls, and it's the website, votebeforetolls.org. Even though the legislative session has not started yet, as Commissioner Schultz said, we do have legislative days currently happening in the legislature. And yes, they are quite busy. Commissioners, you remember a little company called Ridwell who tried to come into Clackamas County and others? Well, they dropped a bill today. Well, they dropped it this week at a surprise in Senator Janine Solomons' committee, which would allow Ridwell to be exempt from requirements that are imposed on other garbage haulers and providers. It was hugely disastrous. It also would take away the local control from counties to apply and regulate recycling franchises. So basically, not only would it give them a wide swath to come into any county, but take away our ability to do what we have already been told to do under Oregon revised statutes and Metro. And I was in conversation with the Oregon Refuse and Recyclers Association in a meeting, and they were like in a panic. And I was on a Zoom meeting with probably 14 providers, many in Clackamas County, and I said I will send an email. So Trent Wilson and I hurriedly sent an email to the committee asking them to stand down, that there was not ample time during legislative days to consider this. The impact would be great, and many of these points I mentioned tonight, sent that email to the Senate, Janine Solomon, who is the chair. Senator Finley sent me back an email this morning and said that bill is not going anywhere today, hopefully for the short session. But we're going to have to be ever vigilant and make sure that they don't come back. And it sounds really disastrous what this bill did. And the relating clause was as big as you could drive a truck through. So not only would it allow for Ridwell to do what they wanted, but any other agency or individual who does not want to follow the rules, does not want to recycle properly. And by the way, this company does not pay family wages like the rest of our providers do. So yes, there are those afoot who would like to do give us some problems, so staff is very vigilant on that, and I think it's important to note that just keep in contact with our people in the community who are providing very necessary services that are public demands, that this could have been very harmful to everybody out there. I have no further business. I see no further business before this commission. Thank you,
Sure.
commissioners.
One thing, I just want to add to your point about the Ridwell thing. No surprise that if they were allowed to do what they do, the part of the county that would be hurt the most would be the rural part of.
Oh, I
Columbus
know
County.
that.
And
I do.
that's, again, hopefully, the state will recognize that and recognize the purpose. We don't collect a dime or make any money on our franchises. It's to make sure and ensure the rural communities are served as equally as the urban communities.
Oh, yeah, and in fact, we pay more, and, I live out in the country, and I would expect to because we live quite a distance away. By the way, it was Legislative Concept 186, they're called LCs, to become law. We're going to definitely have to watch that, but it is quite troublesome. Seeing no comments, thank you. We are adjourned.